Good evening. The hour of 5:30 PM having arrived.
Could be two places at once.
Meeting starting, guys.
Just catching up with everybody. I'll call to order the special meeting of the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel. The video is also posted on the city website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Anyone wishing to view a copy of the proposed operating budget will find it on the city website. Copies of the printed agenda are available in the wall pockets just as you enter this meeting room. Public will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. I will not recognize an individual a second time until everyone who wishes has had a chance to speak. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room and identify themselves by name and address prior to speaking. I'll now call to order this special meeting of Finance Organization and Personnel Committee, and we do have a quorum. There are three of us present, and we'll have one more joined by Zoom at some point in time. The minute taker participates remotely, so please speak clearly, make sure your microphones are on, and remember to identify yourself by name and your residence. Thank you. First part of our agenda is some finance business, item number 1. So we have a communications from Monagna MCVP. From your,
Hi, good evening. I'm Pamela Beeman. I'm the chair of the Board of Directors for Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention. And I'm new at this, so I'm not exactly sure how much to get into. But we own a small parcel near, well, I won't get into that, but we own a small parcel of land that is on a, has a retaining wall that is crumbling. And we received a letter from the city quite a few months ago now from Dawn Lucier, am I saying that right? That needed to be repaired. And we contacted everybody we could think of in the city to try to find out if there might be a possibility that that could be handled by the city, or that maybe by some chance it was not the responsibility of the organization. And we were told that it was. We got a lot of quotes from different contractors that ranged anywhere from like $3,500 up to $75,000 or $85,000. And my understanding, it could be pricier than that depending on who did it and what permits and things were needed. So we were looking for a way to either donate the property to the town or maybe to an abutting neighbor, because given the work that MCVP does for the community and the federal funding that's at risk currently, it's just a expense that for the organization it's not something we really can afford to do. Mm-hmm. So we were hoping we could go with one of the lower end estimates, and then hesitated, worrying that perhaps it might not meet the requirements of the city. So we're kind of at a little bit of a standstill, but then recently Dawn reached back out to me and said that there's a bridge nearby that needs to be repaired, that the city would need access to our property in order to make that repair, and suggested that it might be possible that now the city might be more amenable to taking on this parcel. So we're here to ask the city if they're willing to accept a donation of this parcel from MCVP.
okay, thank you. So we're probably going to hear from the Public Works Director and the city manager. And just to let you know how we operate, we'll review this and talk a little bit about it. We may or may not tonight say
Okay.
we want more time.
Okay.
Or we may decide to send it forward to
Okay.
the city council. But all in all, the final analysis, it's the city council that makes the decision.
Okay.
So
So
manager first, going to go by rank there?
Always.
Sure, I'll be happy to start, thank you. So when we first were contacted about this issue related to the property, we did take a look at it, but unfortunately, we are not able to spend taxpayers' dollars on private property. We did offer potential solutions related to seeking grant funds and connected the organization with the county grant writer to also see if there were grant funds that were available. And this was several months ago. And then recently, both our Public Works Director and our Emergency Management Director took a look at the situation, and we were concerned about any potential flooding from the deterioration of this retaining wall. And so once the Public Works Director took a look at that, he came back with a recommendation that we might be willing to take the parcel. But it's really only because of the work that we need to do, and it would be only if it was a way to help us mitigate flooding, because again, we can't take property to pay for another private property owner's issue on their property unless there's a real legitimate reason on behalf of the city and the rest of the taxpayers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director. The manager largely stole my thunder. I kind of kicked this particular hornet's nest last August when the highway superintendent at that time brought this concern to my attention. We sent a letter to the property owner saying, you know, this is a hazard, and our records showed that it is private property. It's not a city-owned or constructed wall. And since that time, I think the owners have been looking for a way to resolve the concern, and I appreciate that. But I am also sensitive that this is not their core mission, right? The manager is correct that ordinarily I would be here trying to tell you that it would not be appropriate for us to be engaging in this transaction because really there's no public purpose for this retaining wall. Except there's a unique situation here in that we know that the Beaver Street Bridge is in poor condition. It's going to have to be replaced in the very not too distant future. Actually, next week there'll be a resolution coming to council for some funding related to DOT basically notified us earlier this year that the bridge had deteriorated to a condition where it's now on their critical list. So it's continuing to deteriorate, and eventually it will either have to be closed or weight restricted or replaced. So I don't see Beaver Street Bridge getting closed, so I think it's probably going to have to be a replacement at some point. When that happens, we're at the very least going to require temporary easements on this property in order to do that construction. And I think that a lot of what we're looking at in the photo here, that would actually end up being implicated in any future bridge replacement with wing walls and whatnot. So there is a public purpose that would be served by us appropriating, or not appropriating, that's the wrong word, accepting this donation. But, I do want to make sure that the council understands fully well that this is also a liability. That the condition is deteriorated today. So if we were to accept this donation, I would be recommending that we do some immediate remediation. What I would suggest is that for the time being, we simply remove the deteriorated portion of the wall, slope that site back, and armor it with riprap. We could do that with our own forces at low cost with no real impacts to the river itself, so it wouldn't require a permit. And it would just basically sit in that state until some future project where we're rebuilding the bridge, and then we can address the retaining walls.
Okay. Questions here? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both thank all of you for the comments so far. So I see that there's I think a shed at the end of the property as well. So would we, assuming we went through with this, is that shed within the property line, and therefore we'd be taking ownership of that shed and the fencing that goes around the perimeter? Is that correct?
The shed and the fencing are all part of the property. I don't know if there's anything in that shed. I haven't looked at it to know its condition or anything like that.
Okay. And this is a pretty small lot, right? I can't imagine too much development
Yeah,
going
it
on
wouldn't be
here in the
a
future.
buildable lot.
But it'd be something that we could, if the city were to own it, we could, I don't know if we put park benches, some sort of pocket park. It is pretty small, but maybe there is some public purpose there of some form of amenities there.
I'm going to refrain from volunteering my colleague, Carithus
Certainly.
Hennessy, from, having to build another park.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, it would be available for other uses after the construction of the bridge was completed.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public wish to speak? Counselor?
Thank you, Chair. Ed Haas, 114 Jordan. I look at the bridges up and down Beaver Creek, and this is one of the worst. It was good to hear that this is now on the critical list from the state. When someday this bridge will become constructed and all of that will wash out and it won't be anybody's responsibility except the city. If there's a chance here we can get ahead of it, we can save all that trouble when this does obstruct and wash out. Probably you would be ending up buying this property anyhow to make the repairs that would be needed. So thank you. I'm in support of it.
Thank you. You folks ready for a motion, or would you like it to stick around until some others are here? Motion.
Move to recommend the acceptance of Lot 4-5 on Damon Court, tax map 553-045, 000, 000, as a donation to the city of Keene.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion by the committee? In that case, all in favor? No one's opposed, unanimous. This will go to city council next week for action, and then you'll be hearing from us the formalities of how to make it happen.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucia, Public Works Director. With me tonight, Aaron Costa.
Assistant Public Works Director, Wastewater Treatment Plant Manager.
This is intended to be kind of proceeding in parallel with the budget discussions. Of course, Aaron and I will be here next Tuesday night to discuss our budgets in detail. But we do want to get this a rate change, a rate adjustment on your horizon, because those two topics are really kind of linked. So you may recall in 2021, the city went through an exercise. We hired a consultant and developed a rate model that we've been using to sort of set the rates and figure out what we needed for revenue and whatnot. The new finance director and her staff did a wonderful job of getting that model updated from the last time we went through this exercise. And it's been fully updated and allows us to really see the fiscal health of the water and sewer utility funds. The rate changes that are in front of you tonight propose a 5% increase in both water and sewer. And really what we're seeing in the rate model is we'll need 5% rate increases for the next couple of years in order to maintain the fund with the fiscal guidelines that the city council has set in terms of unallocated fund balance and capital reserves. So that's what we're kind of shooting for as a target to maintain that compliance with your goals. That said, really what we've seen is that since the last rate increase in 2021, construction costs across the industry have gone up about 15%. So it wouldn't really be advisable or very, very kind to our customers to try to do this all in one lump sum. So we are suggesting that we slowly, incrementally increase the rates over the next few years. Our intention is to start the habit and the practice of looking at rates and making these incremental adjustments each year rather than, having these larger adjustments every few years. So that's the purpose tonight, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the letting on and letting off charges with a minimum $75. Is that new, or has that always been in there?
So it's
And what is it?
it's basically the cost or the charge. It's a flat rate that we charge when we turn a customer's water off or turn a customer's water on. That letting on and letting off has always been in the code. It was a different rate, of course. But we've adjusted the rate and we've applied it to basically any service call during normal business hours. So your fiscal policies sort of suggest that services, the rates for services should be based on the cost of providing that service. Rather than, go through the added administrative burden of trying to calculate the exact time and cost every time that we do a customer service call, we came up with a flat rate that's going to cover 99% of our service calls during normal business hours. And it's based on, I should know this off the top of my head, I believe it's 2 staff members and a van visiting the customer for an hour is what that worked out to $79. So we said we're going to just make it a flat rate of $75.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed that it appears as though there's a new water meter rate in here as well, the volumetric rate for water dispensed into a tanker truck or other bulk container for a city dispenser. Can you just elaborate on?
That is a sharp eye there, Counselor. Well played. So the bulk rate that we've added to the list basically relates to it's a project that's coming up that's next year. We put in the CIP to construct a bulk water filling station. That's going to be like an automated dispenser where tanker trucks or RVs can pull up, fill up their water tanks, and be on their way. Currently, we offer that service, but it is literally a hose off of a hydrant at DPW. We can only offer that when we're, during normal business hours. The customer has to come in, fill out some paperwork with our admin staff. They get a key from us. They go out, they fill up their tanker, they lock up, then they bring the key back to the public works staff, and then we bill them for it based on that. The new system will be available 24/7, available anytime that they want to come get fresh, clean water from the city of Keene. But we are going to add a new rate that would basically be an appropriate rate for that customer convenience.
So, in the past, when we had a rate increase, it usually came after the budget was passed. And part of the review over the last few years really indicated that it didn't really make a lot of sense. However, folks would say it does if you were waiting to see what our budget's going to be. So pulling this together in the fashion that it is, and given the fact that it's appropriate to do it probably every year, we see it now versus probably would not have seen it until September, given the scheduling and everything like that. So that's why we're here tonight. Are we going to recommend the adoption or hold it till?
Yeah, so we've been going back and forth about that. Originally, I thought we would just hold it, put it on more time with the budget resolution and adopt both at the same time. However, this ordinance is slated to be effective July 1st, and we do have a customer that needs 60 days notice.
That's correct.
And so we would need to adjust that if we did it later. If we move it forward now, we can meet that timeline.
Any further discussion up here? Members of the public? In that case, a motion, please.
Move to recommend the adoption of ordinance O 2025-16 with an effective date of July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unanimous, thank you. We next have our ordinance ordinance 2025-16, which is the budget. So our normal process is to put that on more time and continue with our reviews. Any problem with that? We'll stick to tradition on that one. Your turn.
Move to recommend Resolution R-2025-12 be placed on more time to allow the budget review process to continue.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Members of the public wish to speak? In that case, all in favor? No one's opposed. Unanimous. Which brings us to the budget review. And we are at the Community Development Department, page 152. Yes, sir.
That's me. Good evening, counselors. My name's Paul Andrus. I'm the Community Development Director. I'm just past about 3 months on the job here. Came just a couple of weeks later than our new Finance Director, and I want to thank her for all the support that she's provided to me in this role, and also all the other folks that are involved in the budget process. So the community development budget this year is pretty straightforward. Not too many moving parts. Just wanted to go over a couple of things in terms of what we've been doing. This last year has been a little bit of a change. There's been some changes within the department and some processes in place to better coordinate internally and improve our customer service and do a number of different things that has started, and we're still on the path to implementing those, and I'll get to that in a second. So in terms of just quick numbers, Planning Division reviewed 139 permits that originated either in planning or in building, but these are building permits. Administrative planning approvals were 26 this year. There were 3 minor and 9 major site plans approved, and 5 subdivision applications approved, and also 5 conditional use permits and 4 for the new cottage court zoning developments. So that has been, from what I understand with staff and what I've witnessed since I've been here, that's been a very positive development in terms of making a change to your development code and getting instant results from that. So that's been great. On the building side, we coordinated building and fire safety across 691 projects, which were valued through the building permitting process at roughly $45 million. 1,913 plan reviews were completed, along with 2,397 inspections, while successfully addressing 807 documented code compliance complaints. You probably know there's this process going on, and we're about to finish it up here shortly, called the Master Plan Update. We've engaged over 650 residents through surveys and meetings and public events, 17 in-person visioning sessions, workshops, and, like I said, various community events. And we also were recognized through the Planning Division, through the efforts of making important updates to our development code by the state of New Hampshire as a housing champion, one of 18 communities that were recognized as such. And then one of the processes that's been that has started since I've been in town is we've engaged each ward in town with just community listening sessions with neighborhoods, and we've had a good turnout for a process that we're just beginning. But we will also, so we've had some beginning stages of this, and then we will be picking this up again in the fall, where we essentially just meet at a place within the ward and just listen to what residents have to talk about with respect to the city. So for the next year, our overall goal is to continue emphasizing a one city service provision philosophy, looking at improving our customer service, streamlining permitting, and the approval processes. We want to improve on our code compliance efforts. We always want to be supporting economic development efforts, and that includes housing in that. And as I've mentioned, we want to continue strengthening partnerships with our community partners and continuing those listening sessions and also engaging in other different various ways with the community. With that, we're going to complete the master plan. We're planning on bringing an update to Chapter 18, which is the property maintenance code. We're going to be bringing an update to Chapter 44, which is the building code, which was combined with the property maintenance code, but we've separated that, and we're updating that to be in line with the state provisions as well. So that's coming. We're going to be bringing updates to the development code, again, to support council goals such as housing and economic development, as I've mentioned. We'll be looking at improving internal systems for permit and plan review. And also, along those lines, more robust reporting so that council and the community know what we're doing, the impacts that we're having, what the level of service is that we're providing. And that's something that we're going to continue to work on this year. It's right now we do really well with the widget reporting, but we don't really have a lot of data that we can pull out of our systems currently to really tell a robust narrative. And then we want to increase our capacity to support broader code compliance service as a whole, which includes housing, property maintenance, zoning, food inspections, and the like. So with that, there are just a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Let's see, where is that? So we have two things to highlight. One, in our supplementals, was to provide funding for an additional code compliance housing inspector. And we've kept it in this budget, but it was reduced from the original number requests that we had to be funded at $82,153 for the position to start October 1st this year. And again, that's to enhance our code compliance section. But it's what we're trying to do is to become more, with each position becoming less specialized in a specific type of code compliance and be able to work on all of the facets of code compliance that we currently do. And then the next piece is just we had a $33,000 figure in there to be a city match for a new software to help that we would want to implement for our permitting and plan review, which unfortunately we had a federal grant on the hook, and this $33,000 would be a match. But unfortunately, like a lot of other programs, that those funds were recaptured by the federal government just a couple of weeks ago. So with that, that's kind of the highlights here. I can stand for questions.
So the sheet that we handed out at the first night during the review of the budget, there were some staff recommended changes, and tonight we handed out an updated version of that. On that sheet, you will see the community development grant match software expense being backed out of the budget. That's the $33,750. So we have taken that into account. The other thing you will know is that we did reduce some funding in the community development department for the building health official, which has remained vacant since the retirement of John Rogers, and we've left that vacant because we've been using some of those funds to help offset the fire marshal position, which has been performing in both community development a role there, and in the fire department. We backed that down a little further. These net changes come to zero, but I just wanted to point that out to you. The changes that were mentioned have been taken into account on this sheet.
Questions up here? Anybody, public? In that case, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Information technology.
Yes, sir. Andrew Mueller, IT Director, City of Keene. Very ecstatic not to be the last presenter on a 3-hour night, so this is quite an update for me, upgrade. Appreciate that.
We don't have 3-hour nights anymore.
Oh, great, yeah, good to know. I'll be presenting the operations budget, which is kind of broken into two parts, our 500 and our 501 accounts, and then PC replacement. So the operating budget starts on page 96. That houses our software, any sort of cybersecurity appliances and software, any hardware that's not PCs or printers, so like servers and stuff come out of that account, warranty, outside IT services, and of course our personnel comes out of that account as well. So starting with personnel, the GIS mapping coordinator, which was formerly in the Community and Development Department, has been moved into IT, so there's a kind of a jump in our personnel budget. It's a zero, net gain for the city. It's just been moved from one department to another, so you'll see that in there. Generally, the software increases by, we're hoping 5% every year. Sometimes we get lucky and it's a little bit less. Most of the time it's a little bit more, so we always kind of fight that battle. When contracts are up, we kind of look at them and see if there's anything we can recoup money from. This year is the end of a 5-year phone contract. They monitoring our phone system, and we've decided that we can take that in-house. We have the tools now and the talent to take that in-house. It's going to save the city about 20 grand a year. So that's kind of ways we're trying to always balance this stuff out. On the other side of that, Cartograph, which is a software that the Public Works Department uses, as well as a bunch of other departments, that jumped by over 15%, something we didn't see coming. So, it's a give and take. We're hoping that was just sort of a right sizing and that won't happen again. I know the Public Works Director and myself both talked to Cartograph about it and let them know how disappointed we were. And then we're also bumping up against storage. Basically the hard drive size, the SAN. The city has one big storage area network, and we can predict how much that grows. Unfortunately, there's a wild card, which is the investigations department. Their evidence has become more and more digital, clearly, and we have 16 terabytes of space for the whole city. They get one iPhone in, it's 500 gig. They have to take an image of it. That's 1/30 of all our support just for one case. So what we did this year is we've carved them out of the city's storage, given them their own solution. That has cost a little bit of money up front, but it's going to save us a lot more money in being able to predict sort of how we're doing the storage on one side and give them the compliance that they need. So that affected our budget a little bit as well. Sorry, I'm a fast talker. That's 500. That's that piece. Is there any questions on that before I move on? All right, excellent. So 501, which starts on that same page, page 99, and goes to the next page, that's our cloud accounts. So anything that's not housed on premise, you'll see a list of the different departments that kind of take advantage of that. We don't really have too much say in that world, because we don't own the applications. We're sort of renting them, if you will. We've had a new addition, which is C-Click Fix. That's the Public Works public sort of report management tool. We've had that for a while, but it was sort of prepaid. This coming year is the first year we're going to have to start paying for it every year. So that was a little bump up there. But that's kind of it for the 501. There's not too much more exciting going on in there. That's where our M365 licenses come out of. That's where Munis, the finance software, Vision, the assessing software, all lives in that account. So, questions on that guy? We're doing great. All right, so the next one is piece replacement. That starts on page 190-ish. That's the account that we pay for all the replacements of the users' PCs, laptops, iPads, that sort of stuff throughout the year. Departments pay into that every year. And then when their systems go end of life, end of warranty, we use that account to replace them. We'll have about 120 next year to replace, which is another big number. It takes a lot of time and effort to do that. We've been pretty fortunate since the pandemic. Maybe a year or two after the pandemic, the prices have kind of stabilized on the hardware side. We did have to raise prices, I think, on the iPads a couple of bucks, but they've stabilized. I'm not super confident it's going to stay that way. We just don't know. So, come July 1st, we're going to try to do as much purchasing as we can on the front end before, while we can still predict what the prices are going to be, and move forward from there, and hope that things don't kind of go to pandemic times where supply chains, kind of tighten up and prices go up. So that's my story. Any questions on that guy?
Questions? Members of the public? Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
City Attorney.
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Palmera. I'm the city attorney. Been city attorney for about 2 months now. I have with me our senior paralegal, Barb DiNapoli, who has worked on the budget for much more than 2 months. She's been a big help to me on a daily basis, but also with getting the budget prepared. So I have her here in case I misspeak, or if there's any questions that I don't have the information on. So our budget is, the expenditures are on page 63. We have, as usual, the personnel section on top, which our office doesn't put together, but I would note that the full-time wages positions does reflect the assistant city attorney for the full year. I believe probably at an average step rather than step 1 or step 6, step 3, as well as the senior paralegals position and charter officers reflected separately. In the operating budget, I do want to go through just a couple slight supplementals we have, but before I get there, I want to just note one of the other lines we're not asking for supplementals on, which is the legal services line. We have historically requested this line. We appreciate it, and every year it's something that we rely on and need. It covers our outside counsel for work that we have to outsource, and we outsource for a few reasons. Either there's a conflict with the type of work that it is, or if it's protracted litigation, which is not what my office is equipped or meant for, or if it's an uncommon area of law that requires a specialist rather than a general practitioner like myself. And for the last 5 years, we've had it funded at the $35,000. Before that, it was much higher for the legal services line, but we did add the assistant city attorney, and it went down to $35,000. In looking at how those budgets have played out over the last few years, 1 year the budget was under, 2 years was pretty close, about 35-40, and then 1 year had greatly exceeded it, and then this most recent year we have gone over as well, and you can't expect to see me in the next couple months coming to ask for the unexpended wages to be transferred over to cover the outside services line. There is a good amount left there that is going to cover it, whatever we'll end up needing, because our previous city attorney was at a higher level than I'm currently at, and the assistant city attorney role is not yet filled, unfortunately, which I'm working very hard to figure out, get that filled. And then this year, we are just going to keep it at the $35,000 for our request because the historic data that shows that tends to work out. So going to our supplementals, I'll start with the communications and phone line. That's, we're seeking an extra $1,000. That is for a work cell phone for myself and for the assistant city attorney. I'm sure you know very well from many right-to-know conversations with me about the importance of having your work products, your work documents on one area, not commingled with your personal. So right now that's about $40 a month for mine, and it's funded for the assistant city attorney as well, which will just kick it up a little more. The next line is our office supplies. The cost that you see there, $1,000, is to cover 3 licenses for a software called Adobe Pro. Adobe Pro used to be funded through the IT department. It was covered for everyone who used it in the city, but they have switched to a different product that works with PDFs. That product doesn't do a couple things that unfortunately the annoying lawyers need the tools for. One is proposing redactions rather than just applying them. We use that for both our records requests and for litigation. It's important to see what's under there before we apply them. And another reason we'll use that is, or that we need that product, is something called bait stamping, which is used when you exchange discovery with parties or if we have a subpoena or something like that. If we did not have that product, I'd be hiring an attorney to just use their product, and it's much cheaper to have it in-house. So, including that in our budget this year. The next line for books and collections, we're asking for an extra $1,500. This section covers our RSAs in hard copy, our New Hampshire Practice Series. Both are invaluable tools for the general practitioner. They cover pretty much everything I'll need to know, me and the assistant city attorney. We also have our court rules, evidence manual, land use regulations, and our Westlaw product, which is something I use every single day for case law and accessing updates to legislation. In the 23-24 fiscal year, so 2 budgets ago, we were underfunded by about $1,100. Last year was pretty good at $6,000, but we do expect that there'll be new issues of a few of those hard copy books. It's unfortunately hard to predict, so we're funding a little bit more just in case, but we do know that there's going to be a slight escalator in our Westlaw subscription, which is an escalator built into the contract.
Questions up here? Members of the public? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Barb, for being here.
Page 74.
Good evening, Dan Langell, City Assessor. So my budget, like most years, is pretty straightforward. We're pretty set in our ways as far as we're guided by state statutes and what our responsibilities are on an annual basis. So taking a look at my budget on page 78, you really won't see any changes. There's an increase in the personnel side, and that's just because the staff is still continuing to, they're relatively new, so they're just continuing to work their way up in the wage scale. But a few years ago, we did move from 3 staff members down to 3. That still seems to be working out really well. The city's lucky to have the talented staff that we do in our office. On the operating side, again, I'm not really asking for any changes. There's a slight $200 difference. I just could not cover that with all the increasing costs that I'm sure you guys are all aware of. So I can answer any questions on this. I think it is important. I know it has not related to this year's budget, but I do want to mention it early and often because next year we are going through a revaluation in 2026. Last year when I was here, we were at about 72% of market. This year we're at 66% of market, so the market is continuing to appreciate. What that's going to mean is values are going to increase significantly. That doesn't mean we bring in more money as a result, but we do have to be careful of the shifting of the tax burden because some types of property do go up more than others. It's really out of my control. It's out of anyone's in this room's control. But just so you are aware that will be coming up in 2026. And there will be more information as we go through that process starting next year.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Chair, and actually just a question on that specifically. Is that planned for the first or second half of 2026? So would it, essentially would it apply to not in this round of taxes, but the next or the one after that?
So it's going to apply to your final bill of 2026. We're going to start the work as early as later this summer. We start, some of the early stages of it. We'll actually get a contractor in place starting this summer. And we'll be working on it for the next, year and a half. But the final bill of 2026 is when you'll see any changes.
Otherwise, it's not this year's tax rate setting, so when we do the tax rate setting, it will not affect that. But next year, when we do tax rate setting, it will be part of that.
Which is traditional, whether we had an eval or not. again, that's another one of the New Hampshire things that people don't understand. You know, they get the bill in a couple of weeks, that's not their tax bill, that's their estimate. And the final bill, the real tax bill, is at the end of the year.
Correct.
Anything else for them?
Thank you for your time,
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Just do a drive-by at my house, will you?
Real slow, right?
Yes, yeah. Sure. The mayor has a question.
Yes, Dan, if you could, I just want to be sure that I have the right impression and that others do as well, that the tax bill that we'll receive like November of 2026, due December 2026, is going to reflect a different assessment, property assessment and tax rate. And we won't know that until October of '26, when the Department of Revenue Administration authorizes a new tax base and a rate to fit that fiscal year.
So that is correct. I would just add that part of the revaluation process, we do notify owners ahead of time of the preliminary value. We do give an opportunity for the public to come in and review the work that we've done, make sure that our information is accurate, that they understand the process. So we'll set that out, in the summer of 2026, but the final values will be set after that, and the tax rate is set by the state after that, 2026.
Just to play that through, the appeal process is then something that takes place in like January of '27.
So the appeal process is after you receive your final bill, you have until March 1st to file an appeal at the local level. And if you're still dissatisfied with that, you can continue to the court or the Board of Tax and Land Appeals.
And
it's all notified, everything is on your tax bill and on any notice that we provide.
the bill is still due while the appeal can be filed and considered.
Certainly.
Yeah. Okay. Just walking through that process. It doesn't happen but every 5 years, so just good to refresh it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parking fund, oh,
I gotta get quicker.
let's see if we can train them.
I'm back again. Ed Haas, 114 Jordan. Question for the assessor. We know what the total property value, the total taxable property value is in the city. Do you identify how much property value is in current use or has credits for military service or energy credits or anything like that? Are those numbers available?
They are. I have a MS1 form that I have to file with the state every year. I'd be happy to provide it. It's a public document that provides the information on the exempt values, all of our exemptions and credits.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Going once.
Good evening, I'm Chelsea North, the Parking Operations Manager. I wanted to highlight a few things that we've done over the last year to lay the groundwork for moving forward in FY26. So over the last year, the parking system has undergone quite a few significant changes. The overnight winter parking ban has been eliminated except for during the winter emergency declarations. The restrictions on downtown parking during the summer have also been eliminated except for scheduled maintenance, so similar to the winter ban. The winter maintenance period. We have made great strides in further modernizing the parking system through changes like pay station expansion and introduction of a new text to park program, and which is also resulting in the increased use of Park Mobile. We continue to offer coins as a method of payment at pay stations and the old coin meters, which are now more than antique and they're irreplaceable in large numbers. Just this week, we've launched consolidated Park Mobile zones that allow for greater movement in an area without having to pay for an additional parking session. It also allows for more payment options within a zone and more payment flexibility. Coinciding with this launch, we've changed our back office and enforcement software provider, which has allowed us to reduce the amount of fees for online and delinquent payment tickets, which are taken upfront, and we are distributed the revenue through our software provider. But we have now changed that to eliminating those fees. Now there is a licensing software licensing fee, and so we're saving on some of those costs. Reducing these fees are also for the benefit of online ticket payers. The $4 parking ticket fee, online payment fee, has now been reduced down to $2.50 for a standard ticket. So we're trying to save people money where we can, and also save the parking fund money where we can. Online ticket payments continue to be the predominant ticket payment method, and combined with the increase in monthly PayStation Park Mobile transactions, we see that customers are becoming more comfortable with modernized parking technology. So we have about 14,000 PayStation transactions that occur every month, and with Park Mobile, it's about over 11,000 that we have every month. So we have a lot of people who are paying this way, and we're happy to introduce the new Text Park, which we can already see on day 4 now that a lot of people are starting to use that too, which is really good. Another change that we had this last year was Juneteenth. So all of these things have impact to the parking fund. And we also offer new permit types. So we've had a lot of big changes this last year, which is great. So looking at FY26, we've passed the first year window of the communication and parts fees that were originally included with the PayStation CIP. So with that, we have an increase in those fees in the technical services category. And in addition to these fees, the new software that we have has a licensing fee, and ultimately we will save revenue from the costs associated with the old software program, which uses a fee structure based off of a percentage of delinquent ticket payments, among other fees, including notices to customers. So we're taking those notices in-house, but with that, we'll be asking for additional postage. So overall, we're asking for $18,000 in technical services for all of these increased costs with the software, with the pay stations. There are state fees with the DMV that have also increased. And we are asking for $1,000 in additional postage to bring those notices processing in-house. But it will ultimately save us money in a different area by increasing revenue with ticket payments.
Questions here? Yes, sir.
Just a quick question on the supplemental on the well stack maintenance. Just on that lighting up here. Are we adding lights, or are we improving the lights
Dawn,
that we
help me
have?
with this?
Just curious on that one.
I believe that is to replace some of the existing lights and improve the lighting, but it's not adding any new lights that aren't there today.
Thank you.
Members of the public? Counselor?
I felt like I had to get in at some point. Jacob Favalese, Main Street. There's a portion in the narrative part of this section of the budget that talks about the parking fund as self-sustaining. And yet on page 180 in the revenues and expenditures piece, it looks to me in reading that a significant portion does come from the tax base. And so I wonder if I'm misunderstanding that, or if it's true that taxes are subsidizing to some extent the parking operations.
Without knowing may I? I'm
Yes.
sorry. I was actually, before I saw you coming up, I was going to see if I could make a comment, because there is often confusion about tax dollars supporting parking, and we do often tell people that it's a self-supporting operation. So without knowing specifically what item you're looking on page 180, I can't say, but there is an admin fee where departments like parking and fleet services and others pay actually it's the other way around, I think, to the city for the services provided by the finance department and other services that are outside of that division. So I think it might be the opposite, but if you can specify exactly what line item you're looking at, I would take a look.
Yeah, so it's not a line item, it's the overall breakdown of revenues and expenditures.
I think it's the admin fee.
I need more time to look.
Can we get back to you on that?
Yes,
Thank-
you know where to find me.
Yeah.
I think taxes don't always reference property taxes.
Our finance director knew the answer. It's the Tax Increment Financing District, it's the TIF.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Human Resources.
So I think you guys, since I stayed for the last meeting, I think you guys put me last on purpose.
me.
And then because you put me last on purpose, I forgot why I was here. Just one moment and let me get to the Human Resources page. Good evening. Assistant City Manager, HR Director Beth Fox. I am here this evening to talk with you about the HR budget. In large part, the HR budget is unchanged. There are no specific supplemental appropriations requested because we were able to, within the non-operating portions of both the HR office side and the employee benefits side, move money around to accommodate places where we needed some additional funds. Some things to note that might be a little more, one thing to note that might be a little more challenging to manage within this budget this year, but we always take our best shot at it, is this is a year in which we have contract negotiations underway, and we have 3 collective bargaining units that are, have contracts that expire on June 30th. That process is underway, but I expect will probably extend into next year. And then next year, we will have 3 more agreements expire that we'll start to work on in January. So there's the potential for significantly more activity in the area of professional services because we do utilize outside counsel to assist in those negotiations. So that is one area in the budget that while we did not make an adjustment to its funding for FY26, I expect it will be difficult to, maybe difficult to meet that objective. HR, as you look at our statistics, and as you see people come to you at public meetings and talk about what the city's business is, has been continued to be very busy in the area of recruitment in this past fiscal period. I thought FY24 was very busy. We were a little busier in FY25. I am, and I'm not optimistic that trend will change in the short term, although it is interesting as you look at some of the statistics about our age and our demographics of our workforce. We are starting to get a little younger, maybe not individually, but collectively. So maybe if I hang around, it will rub off. But we are also seeing, we're starting to see also, we went in one direction with more employees with fewer years of service. That seems to be fluxing, and maybe we're crossing a barrier again, but I'm not convinced that we're also not going to continue to see declines in our most senior years of service, or most, senior is probably the wrong word, most, yes. Highest number of continuous years of service versus employees that are at the earlier stages in their career. We have been pretty successful this year, in large part due to the consistent and enthusiastic support of Andy Bohannon in launching more employee development opportunities. He's teamed up with HR staff and also teamed up with other agencies in our region and really been a shot in the arm for those efforts. FY '25, HR did end up, I think, engaged a little bit more in some part because of transitions that we went through in the finance department, operational, doing business issues. We're hopeful in FY '26 that we're going to have kind of moved beyond that effort, and we're able to sort of focus on more software implementation. We kind of ended up a bit more in the let's keep the widgets moving mode this year and make sure that the essential functions for employees that we were doing in the system moved smoothly. But we, I think, are turning the corner on that now finally, and I give kudos to the folks that have moved into new positions and really stepped up and grabbed onto that work. I think it was beneficial that HR had been so engaged in the software software changeover as it related to payroll a few years ago, because absent that, I think it probably would have been a bit more challenging, and we were very glad to step up and help, but we'll also, I think, be very happy to step away and focus more on what I think are more HR core mission issues. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I think the budget is fairly straightforward. Things are busy, and people are doing great work in your organization, and you should be proud of that.
Thank you. Questions here?
Quick question on page 95. There's a line item for rental parking space. Can you elaborate on what that line item is?
I sure can. Just like a business would need to rent parking spaces from the city rents parking spaces from the city to support parking. So the line item for rental parking spaces is transfer to the parking fund to support the number of spaces required for different city facilities that use public parking. So that's primarily City Hall, the fire department, and the library. Some of our other city facilities like Parks and Rec, Public Works, Police Department are very fortunate. They have big lots, but and parking has not started charging them for those lots yet. So yes, they don't manage them, they don't maintain them, but parking might have an idea, new revenue source. Figure out how to charge Don for his parking.
Okay. Public? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to check in on the wage study.
Yeah.
And just, you'll update us, and I don't think there's a follow-up question.
Yeah. That work has, I think, moved a little bit more slowly than we had anticipated. We're at the point of finalizing RFP for that process, which I expect will get issued in the near future, but that project has moved more slowly than we initially expected.
So there's probably some lapse in this year?
That project had its own funding source that carries forward with it.
Okay.
So it
So-
remains funded.
Into whenever
Yes,
the
yes.
period is right for us
Yes,
to
the
do
funding
that.
source moved with the project, not with the fiscal cycle.
Have we been able to just calibrate a few positions where we've been out in the market to see, because we've been out in the market quite a bit
Yeah.
in the last year, and so maybe you've been able to observe, are we competitive in the marketplace, I guess is my concern,
Yeah.
my interest.
I mean, I think we remain challenged in specific types of positions. Technical positions remain challenging. We haven't the ordinance that's coming forward next cycle does not have any specific adjustments really related to the market proposed. We've been really wanting to address it a little bit more holistically. But I was talking earlier tonight with the manager about a couple key positions, and that we may, once we get past the budget process, need to do something different, because there are a few key positions that we are struggling, and either there might be another strategy to fill those positions, or fill the need that those positions meet for the organization, or there may need to be an adjustment to see if we can position them better in the market. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back at this again Tuesday the 13th, 5:30.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
All right. We'll be back at it next Tuesday, 5:30, and it's the whole Public Works kabang of people, so. We are adjourned. Thank you.